This is Unemployed Jeff. Conversations about identity, uncertainty, and what's left when work has kind of fallen away. As you can assume, I'm Jeff. And my goal is you walk away at least feeling like you're not alone and knowing that you have value. Who is this for? This is for people who are unemployed, underemployed, burned out, or quietly questioning their career identity. Heavy stuff. But it's also, I just want people to know you're not alone. It's for people who are tired of being told to reframe everything as an opportunity. It's for people who are dealing with the invisible work of holding themselves together while the outside world keeps asking for updates. Sometimes it'll just be talking. Sometimes I'll have conversations with other people who've been through this, not because they figured it out, but because they lived through the in-between, or people who are currently living in the in-between. If you're listening to this and thinking, oh, someone finally said it out loud, then this is for you. And I don't know where the podcast is going to go yet. And honestly, that to me feels pretty appropriate. What I do know is that I'm going to show up honestly. I'm not going to rush the story. And I'm not going to pretend this part of life doesn't matter. If you're here, thank you. And if you're in the middle of your own reset, you're not behind, you're not broken, and you're not doing this wrong. I'm glad you're here. Being overqualified. Quietly brutal. What overqualified really means and why it stings. When you're told you're overqualified, it almost sounds polite. It's framed like a compliment, almost generous, but it lands like a door closing quietly. Because there's no argument you can make, no gap you can fix, no skill you can add. It's not about what you lack. It's about what you already have, what you already are. The word itself, overqualified, it's one of those words that means everything and nothing at the same time. It doesn't come with specifics. It doesn't invite clarification. It just ends the conversation. And what it usually means is this. We think you'll leave. We think you'll get bored. We think you'll challenge things. We think we can't afford you. Or we think you'll see through something we'd rather not explain. None of that is about ability. It's about control and risk. The irony of this is that it's strange because that experience used to be the goal. You spent years becoming competent. You learned how systems actually work. You made mistakes and survived them. And now suddenly that depth is treated like a liability. You didn't overshoot the mark. The mark moved. I started to apply for hourly jobs at one point. And this wasn't, I did this not as a statement, not as a backup plan, just as work. Jobs were showing up mattered more than titles. And this was where effort was the qualification. And I didn't expect it to feel the way it did because I didn't get turned down for lacking experience. I got turned down for having too much of it. Overqualified again, which is strange. Because the work still needed to be done, the shifts still needed to be filled, but experience made people nervous. They worried I'd leave. They worried I wouldn't stay. They worried I wouldn't fit. And I understood that intellectually, but emotionally it landed hard. Because there's a particular kind of disorientation that comes from realizing you're apparently qualified to do nothing. Too experienced for one door, too experienced for the other. That's when it really hits you. This isn't about skill, it's about categories. And when you don't fit neatly into one anymore, the system doesn't quite know where to put you. So if you've been labeled overqualified, it doesn't mean you aim too high. After hearing overqualified enough times, something subtle starts to happen. I call this the shrinking reflex. You start shrinking yourself. You rewrite your resume, you remove leadership roles, you start to downplay decision making. Any place on the old resume that said led is now turned into supported. You stop saying what you really know how to do, not because it's untrue, but because it seems safer. And that's the part that stings the most. Not the rejection, but the quiet shrinking that follows, almost a self-erasure. And at some point you realize you're not editing for clarity, you're editing for comfort, someone else's comfort. Overqualified doesn't just question fit, it questions identity, because work isn't just what you do. It's where your competence shows up. It's where your judgment matters. And when that competence becomes the reason you're passed over, it can feel disorienting. You start wondering, should I pretend I don't know this? Should I hide that part of myself? Should I want something smaller? And those aren't career questions, they're identity questions. And what it actually signals, and here's the part that doesn't get said. Being overqualified often means the role is narrower than advertised. The organization is fragile. The leadership is insecure. Or the structure just can't absorb experience without friction. None of that makes them bad, but it does explain the reaction. Experience introduces gravity, and not every system is built to handle that weight. So if you've been labeled overqualified, it doesn't mean you aimed too high. It means you arrived with more depth than the role could hold. And that stings. Because you weren't asking to be impressive. You were asking to contribute. If you're sitting with that now, feeling like you have to make yourself smaller just to stay in the room, that's not growth. That's survival. And I get it. But it doesn't define your worth. We'll keep talking about this slowly and honestly. If you're in this space, you don't need to fix it right now. You just need to know you're not alone in it. We'll talk again soon.